Welcome to Sleep with Myth. Close your eyes and let the world fade away. Tonight we drift beyond time, where gods dream and stories remember their light. When the rain stopped for the first time, no one in the valley of White River remembered a day without rain. Rain was the sky's breath, the world's memory. But on one strange morning, the clouds forgot to cry. The sky waited, the people waited, but not a single drop fell. The girl who heard water's dreams, Lyra, a quiet girl with river-glass eyes, could hear the whispers of water. She rushed to the river only to find a silence deeper than stillness. Touching the surface, she heard water say, "We are forgetting." The elders gather. In the village meeting, Lyra told the elders what she heard. Elder Revan revealed a truth. If water forgets heaven, the sky can no longer rain. The cycle had been broken. The last raindrop. That night, a single raindrop fell, the last raindrop in the world. It spoke to Lyra, "We remember you, but soon we will forget heaven entirely." It told her she must go where water was born, the place before sky, where storms dream. The path water wants her to walk. Elder Revan confirmed the ancient myth. Lyra must travel to Sky's Hollow, the oldest wound of the world, so water may remember again. The journey begins. With the last raindrop glowing in her hands, Lyra stepped beyond the valley. The rivers were still, the clouds confused. Only the tiny star-like drop guided her toward the birthplace of storms, where the world's forgotten memory waited. Lyra left the village at dawn, when the clouds should have been heavy with silver and the roofs should have sung with droplets. Instead, a pale, soundless sky stretched overhead like a forgotten page. The river beside the path moved with an uneasy sluggishness. It no longer danced over stones. It slid, thick and tired, as if each bend cost it effort. Lyra walked along its bank, fingers brushing the air just above the surface. Once, touching water had filled her ears with songs. Plum blossom rains, mountain streams laughing over black rock, distant seas murmuring against shores she had never seen. Now the river whispered only one word, thirst. She shivered. In her cupped hands nestled the last raindrop. It glowed faintly, like a tiny star caught inside a bead of glass. Whenever she slowed or hesitated, the drop pulsed with soft light, urging her onward. "You can still speak to the others?" she asked it quietly. A strand of coolness threaded through her mind, a voice made of translucence and memory. "Some," the raindrop answered, "those who have not yet forgotten that they were once sky." Lyra glanced back at her home. The valley lay behind her like a sleeping animal, unaware of the fever creeping through its veins. "How long until they forget?" she whispered. The raindrop trembled. "Not long. The river of turning back." The path soon rose above the river, leading her to a narrow pass between jagged gray stones. Wind moved there, restless and dry, carrying the faint scent of distant dust. At the end of the pass, the river took a sudden, sharp bend and vanished into a deep cleft between cliffs. Lyra stopped. The elders called this place the River of Turning Back. No one crossed beyond it. No fields grew on the other side. No flocks grazed. No songs were sung. Stories said the land past the bend belonged to storms older than memory, and that travelers who walked there returned with eyes full of distant clouds, or never returned at all. The raindrop pulsed in her palms. "Here," it whispered. "The water still remembers a little." Lyra closed her eyes and listened. Beneath the heavy silence, beneath the sluggish current, she heard faint voices, 1,000-old rains murmuring in forgotten dialects of thunder and mist. A summer downpour over fields of blue grain. A drizzle on a child's first birthday. A storm that once broke a mountain's sleeping heart. They swirled around her, weak, far away, but not completely gone. "Sky's hollow lies beyond this bend," the raindrop said. "Where the river disappears into stone, a path opens for those who carry water's dream." Lyra listened harder. The river's whisper sharpened, becoming almost like words. "Go on, go on, remember us." She took a breath that tasted like old storms and stepped past the place where her world ended. The country without clouds. Beyond the bend, the river narrowed. Its banks rose, then crumbled away into a stretch of cracked earth. Grass shrank into brittle, colorless threads. Trees twisted, trying to reach a sky that no longer fed them. Lyra walked for hours beneath a pale dome of nothing. No birds, no insects, only the sound of her own breathing and the faint, rhythmic slosh of the raindrop in her hands. She felt the land's thirst pressing against her skin. Stones radiated heat, though the sun was veiled. The air itself felt scraped clean of moisture, as though some unseen hand had wrung the sky dry. "Was it always like this?" she asked. The raindrop dimmed. "No. Once, this region was a cradle of storms. Then what happened?" There was a pause, a hesitation she had never before heard in the language of water. "We forgot how to fall," the raindrop admitted. "How do you forget something so simple?" "Falling isn't simple," the drop answered sadly. "To fall, we must trust that the world will catch us. Once all water knew this, but something broke that trust." Lyra felt her throat tighten. "What broke it?" she asked, but the raindrop remained silent. Far ahead, the land rose into a low ridge of black stone. Beyond it, faint flashes of gray shimmered like mirages. The hill of old puddles. By dusk, Lyra reached the ridge. At its crest, she found shallow hollows cupped into the stone, each filled with a thin skin of glassy residue. Places where puddles had once rested after rain, now hardened into fragile mirrors. She knelt beside one and ran a fingertip over it. The glass cracked immediately, splintering into glittering shards. A small sigh escaped the broken surface, like the last breath of a dream. "Sorry," Lyra whispered. The raindrops stirred in her hand. "They are echoes," it explained gently. "Traces of when we lingered, when children stamped their feet and laughed, when moons danced on still water, memories pressed into stone." "Can they be healed?" Lyra asked. "Not as they were," the raindrop replied, "but they can be remembered. And remembrance is the first rain in any desert." Another hollow lay nearby. This time, Lyra hovered her fingers just above it. Instead of breaking, the brittle surface released a faint shimmer, like dust made of light. In that shimmer, she saw a moment not her own. A child splashing barefoot through fresh puddles. A dog shaking droplets from fur. A grandmother tipping her face to the sky, eyes closed, letting cool water trace the lines of her cheeks. The image faded, but a new sensation lingered in Lyra's chest, warm and wet and aching. She realized she was remembering a memory that did not belong to her. "Water keeps everything," the raindrop said, voice soft. "We remember each cry, each song, each promise. Even now, as forgetting spreads, small pieces cling to stone, to riverbeds, to the undersides of broken clouds." Lyra rose, the mantle of borrowed memories heavy on her shoulders. "If Sky's Hollow is where water was born," she said, "maybe it's also where remembering can begin again." The first sign of Sky's Hollow. Night crept quietly over the land. Without clouds, the stars were raw and unblinking. They watched Lyra walk as if uncertain she belonged in a sky without rain. The raindrop glowed steadily, just bright enough to paint shapes in the dark. It cast a tiny circle of silver over rocks and scrub. After hours of quiet steps and long shadows, she heard it, a distant, low rumble. Not like thunder. There was no roll, no crackle, no answering flash of light. This was a deeper sound, as if mountains were breathing in their sleep. "The hollow is near," the raindrop said. "How can you tell?" Lyra asked. "We remember the sound of our own beginning." The ground sloped downward. The ridge ended abruptly at a vast depression in the earth. A bowl of stone so wide the opposite side blurred into haze. From its center rose a column of pale mist twisting upward like a forgotten exhale. Lyra stepped to the rim and stared. "Is that fog?" she asked, astonished. Fog had vanished with the disappearance of rain. Yet there, in the middle of the barren basin, something white and soft curled and folded upon itself. Her heart leapt. Water. But as she watched, the mist flickered, pulsing in and out of existence like a fading candle flame. "It is what remains of the first cloud," the raindrop whispered. "The one that never fell. The ghost of the first cloud." Lyra descended carefully into the basin. The air grew cooler with each step. A faint dampness returned, clinging to her skin like the memory of tears. At the center, the mist coiled more thickly, forming vague shapes. Arms, wings, a face, none complete. It shimmered, then shredded apart, then reformed. "Who comes?" a voice murmured, thin as distant drizzle. "Lyra of White River," she answered. "I carry the last raindrop." The mist brightened. "A drop that still remembers heaven," the voice sighed. "I have not seen such brightness since I was whole." "Are you a cloud?" Lyra asked. "Why didn't you?" she whispered. The mist churned, tinged with a faint shadow. "I grew afraid," it admitted. The world below was sharp and unknown. The sky was open and soft. I clung to height, and so I remained unfallen. The raindrop trembled in Lyra's hand. "In my refusal," the cloud continued, "I taught all water a new word, hesitation." Slowly that word spread. Rains began to doubt their own descent. Drizzles paused. Storms held themselves back. At last, forgetting began. Lyra's chest ached. You started the forgetting? She asked gently. Yes, the cloud whispered. But I also kept a secret. In the heart of my fear, I trapped a piece of the memory of falling. I held it, waiting for someone brave enough to ask for it. The raindrop pulsed brighter. Lyra, it said softly, ask. The memory of falling. Lyra took a step closer to the swirling mist. I have come to help water remember heaven, she said, to help the sky cry again. Will you share that memory with me? The mist quivered, then steadied. I will, the first cloud replied. But memory cannot be given from far away. You must step inside me. Lyra hesitated. What will happen? You will feel what I felt, the cloud answered. The terror of falling, the thrill of surrender, the moment of trust that I never allowed myself. And if you do what I could not, the memory will belong to you, and through you to all water. Her heart pounded. What if I'm not strong enough? The raindrop's cool voice flowed through her thoughts. You do not have to be strong, it said. You only have to be willing. The words settled in her like soft rain on dry soil. She thought of the valley's withering fields, of children cupping empty hands to the sky, of the river whispering thirst. Then she stepped forward into the mist. The sky inside her, cold, enveloped her, sharp and sweet all at once. The world vanished. She felt herself rise, weightless, pulling away from ground, from trees, from the warmth of hearth fires. She became vapor, drifting with currents she could not see. Below her, the world glittered. Rivers like silver threads, mountains like sleeping beasts, forests trembling in the wind. Lyra felt the first cloud's fear claw at her. If I fall, will I break? If I break, will I be nothing? If I am nothing, who will remember the sky? She clung to height, to lightness, to distance. But another feeling tugged at her, deep, stubborn, aching. Down there, the land cracked with thirst. Down there, children waited. Down there, seeds slept, wrapped in dust, dreaming of green. Trust them, a voice whispered, her own, but older. Trust the world to catch you. She let go. She fell. Not like a stone, not like a broken branch. She fell like a song returning to its first listener. Wind wrapped her. Gravity welcomed her. The world opened its hands. She felt herself become drop, a clear, shining bead racing toward earth. Fear flickered, but joy burned brighter. This is what I am for, she thought. I am sky made touchable. I am heaven remembering earth. The moment just before she would have struck the ground, the vision shattered. Lyra gasped and staggered, back in the basin, back in her own body, the mist swirling around her like a cloak. The gift the first cloud gave. The ghost of the cloud dimmed, its edges softening. You did what I never did, it whispered. You trusted the fall. Warm wetness streaked Lyra's cheeks. She touched her face, startled. Tears, the first she had shed since the rain stopped, cool, salt-sweet, falling freely. Your tears, the cloud said with quiet wonder. Water that chooses to fall. The raindrop in her hands flared, bright as a new star. "We remember," it whispered. "We remember." A rush of sensations filled Lyra. Storms over faraway seas, mountain snow melting into spring, dew forming on leaves at dawn. The memory of falling had returned to water. The basin's air grew denser. Tiny droplets formed around her, swirling like a halo. For a moment it actually rained. Only a soft mist, but real cool, alive. Then the cloud's voice faded. "Carry it to the others," it said. "Tell them that the world will catch them. Tell them heaven is not lost when it touches earth. It learns its own reflection." The mist drifted upward, thinning, rising back toward the wounded sky like a released breath. Lyra stood alone in the basin, soaked in ghostly dew, the last raindrop blazing in her palm. "I will," she whispered. Above her, far away, the colorless sky flickered, as if trying to remember how to darken with pending rain. She lifted the glowing drop. "Come," she said softly. "We have a world to teach how to fall again." Holding the memory of the first true descent in her bones, Lyra turned toward the unseen horizon, where rivers waited and clouds dreamed alone. The path to the next part of her journey shimmered before her like distant water. The path that rose like a question. Lyra climbed toward Stormrest Mountain, the place where thunder once slept. The sky showed faint streaks of silver, clouds trying to remember how to form. The last raindrop glowed in her palms, whispering that the world was listening again. The river that never reached the sea. Halfway up the mountain, she found a stream frozen not by cold but by forgetting. It whispered, "We have forgotten our ending." Lyra guided the raindrop over its surface, awakening a faint memory of the sea, but the stream could not move. "We need the sky's tears," it said. Lyra promised she would bring them back. The guardian of dry stone, a great stag of dust and stone, Dryhorn, appeared and questioned her purpose. When Lyra vowed to restore rain, Dryhorn sent her to the echoing crest, where the mountain would judge her truth. The chamber that held the sky's breath. Inside the crest, Lyra found the sky seed, a vast sphere of water suspended in air, the first imagined dream of rain. To awaken it, she had to give something only mortal hearts possess. Meaning. She pressed her hand to the sky seed. Memories of storms, rivers, and her village flooded her mind. Her tears fell upon the sphere, awakening it. The memory of falling. Lyra stepped inside the memory of the first cloud and relived its terror and joy. She surrendered, trusted the fall, and learned rain's forgotten truth. When she emerged, thousands of droplets whirled around her. They remembered falling again. The mountain's answer. Dryhorn warned that rain requires cost. Lyra accepted the burden of rain's emotions, the longing, grief, and joy of water. Though overwhelming, she embraced it with the raindrop's help. The sign in the sky. The droplets burst upward into the open sky. Clouds gathered. Thunder murmured. The world had begun to remember. Lyra descended the mountain, knowing the next step would be far more difficult. The return to a thirsty valley. By the time Lyra stepped back into the valley of White River, the air felt thinner than when she had left. Dust hung where mist once drifted. The river had shrunk, its banks exposed like ribs. People stood on the shore in silence, staring at the sky as if waiting for an apology. Her grandmother hurried to meet her, eyes bright with worry and stubborn hope. "You're back," she said, pulling Lyra into a tight embrace. "Did you find what you were looking for?" Lyra glanced up at the pale sky. For the first time since the rains had stopped, faint threads of cloud stretched across it. Not full, not dark, but present. "Yes," Lyra whispered. "I found where water was born afraid, and I learned how it was meant to fall." In her cupped hand, the last raindrop glowed more brightly than ever. It no longer felt small, felt deep. When water began to whisper louder, Lyra knelt at the river's edge. The current barely moved. Stones that should have been submerged lay bare and dull. She dipped her fingers into the shallow water. Before, the river had murmured quietly, distant and tired. Now its voice surged into her mind like a flood of whispers. "You remember," it sighed. "We feel it in you, the memory of falling." Images rippled through her thoughts. Clouds building, raindrops leaping, leaves shivering under cold weight, earth opening to drink. "We want the sky back," the river said. "We want the promise of descent." "You will have it," Lyra answered, "but not as before. You must trust the fall again. You must trust the world to catch you." The river hesitated. "We remember drowning, too," it murmured. "Fields washed away, homes swallowed, children swept from arms." Lyra's heart ached. "I know," she whispered. "Rain is not only kindness, can be too much of memory at once. But without it, everything forgets how to live." The last raindrop pulsed, sending a gentle coolness through her veins. "We will show them another way," it said. "A balance between thirst and flood." The first test of the new rain. The elders gathered at the riverbank, Elder Revan, his brow lined, the miller with flowers still on his hands, mothers with children peeking from behind their skirts. Torin, the chief, stepped forward. "You say you have brought something back," he said. "Can you prove it?" Lyra gazed at the quiet river, at the clouds thinly stitched overhead. "I can ask," she answered. "But rain is not a command. It's a promise between sky and earth. Both must agree." Her grandmother nodded. "Then ask properly." So Lyra stood barefoot in the shallows, lifted the glowing raindrop, and spoke. Not with her tongue alone, but with the memory inside her bones. "We remember," she whispered, her voice almost lost in the still air. "We remember the first fall. We remember fear. We remember trust." The last raindrop answered her, its voice blending with hers. "We remember seeds waiting, rivers calling, dry roots aching under earth. We remember that heaven does not vanish when it touches ground. It finds its reflection." Her chest burned. Her eyes stung. A single tear slid down her face and fell into the river. The last raindrop shivered, then dissolved into that tear. The moment it touched the water, the river inhaled. Every ripple brightened, as if lit from beneath. And above them, the thin clouds flinched. They gathered. They darkened. They remembered. When heaven shivered once more, A wind rose, carrying the scent of something almost forgotten. Wet stone, cool dust, leaves bracing for weight. People lifted their faces. A small girl whispered, "Is it happening?" Lyra felt the sky tremble. She could sense the clouds arguing with themselves. We will fall. We will stay. We will scatter. We will gather. Her heartbeat matched their rhythm. Trust, she murmured. A soft, cool prick touched her hand. Then another. A single droplet landed on the chief's cheek. Another on an elder's brow. Another on the surface of the river. "It's raining," someone gasped. But it wasn't the wild, roaring rain of old storms. This was cautious, hesitant. A few droplets scattered, feeling their way back into the world. They fell like questions. Lyra closed her eyes and listened with every part of herself. The water's voice was different now. Not only thirst, not only fear. It was curious. "Will they welcome us?" the drops seemed to ask. Children laughed and reached up open-palmed. "Yes," Lyra whispered. "They will." The price of remembering. As the thin rain continued to fall, Lyra staggered. Her grandmother caught her. "What is it, child?" "It's—" Lyra pressed a hand to her chest. "It's all of them. Every drop that ever fell. Every heart it touched. They're telling me their stories." She felt fields cheering at their first soaking. She felt hillsides breaking under mudslides. She felt lovers standing under shared storms, grief cleansed from tired faces, and prisoners staring at a single droplet sliding down a barred window. Joy, misery, relief, despair, all of it carried in water's memory. "It's too much," she gasped. The river's voice swelled inside her. "We warned you. Rain remembers everything it touches. To ask it to return is to invite all that remembering back into the world." Her grandmother held her tighter. "Let some of it pass through," the old woman whispered. "Do not keep all of it. We are not rivers, Lyra. We are small cups. Take only what you can carry." The thin rain softened and then stopped. The clouds hovered, uncertain. Lyra wiped her eyes and took a slow breath. "I understand," she said. "If rain returns, it must do so with care. Not as a flood of all memories at once. As a gentle returning, piece by piece." "Can you teach it that?" Torin asked. Lyra looked out over the valley. The cracked fields, the thirsty trees, the river trying to smooth its exposed stones. She nodded. "We will learn together." The river's request. That night, Lyra returned alone to the riverbank. The moon was dim behind thin, scattered clouds. No longer empty sky, but not yet the full, heavy blanket of the old days. She placed her palm on the water. "We remember," the river whispered immediately, its voice clearer than ever. "We felt the rain. Short, careful, new. How did it feel?" she asked. "Strange," the river replied. "Like hearing the first notes of a song we once sang every day and suddenly forgot all the words to." "Will you welcome more?" Lyra asked. "Yes," the river said, "but not all at once. We do not wish to drown the valley again. We ask for a rain that listens." "A rain that listens," Lyra repeated. "We will call to the sky when we are ready." the river continued. But we need someone to listen on both sides, someone who hears water and feels earth. Lyra knew what it was asking. You want me to stand between, she said softly. The world needs a dreamer of rain, the river answered. Someone to remind the sky that falling is not losing itself, and remind the earth that receiving is not surrender. The thought weighed heavy. And right, I'll try, she said. The dream the last raindrop left behind. That night, Lyra slept for the first time since her journey began without waking from dryness in her throat. She dreamed. In her dream, she stood high above the world, walking along the seam where sky met earth. On one side of the seam, clouds raced, thick, roiling, impatient. On the other side, rivers curled, restless, waiting. Everywhere she stepped, tiny glowing threads appeared, connecting vapor above to soil below. Trust, she whispered with each step. Clouds dipped, rivers rose in mist, mountains exhaled, dry leaves rustled like pages opening. She saw the last raindrop drifting beside her, no longer alone, but blended into 1,000 small lights. You're not the last anymore, she said. Nor the first, it replied. Only a beginning that remembered how to begin again. She woke with damp lashes and the taste of cool air in her mouth. The sky that learned to ask. In the gray hush before dawn, before anyone else woke, Lyra stepped outside. The sky above the valley was no longer pale and stiff. Wisps of cloud moved slowly, as if turning their faces from one horizon to another. They did not darken. They did not break. They waited. A question hung between heaven and earth. Are you ready? Lyra pressed her bare feet into the soil. Roots of grasses brushed her toes like whispers. Some of us are, she said. Some of us are not. We will not always ask at the right time. We will make mistakes. We will ask for too much or too little. But we are learning too. The clouds rippled gently. A single small droplet formed high above, then fell straight and sure, landing on the back of her hand. Not as command, as promise. Lyra smiled. Then we'll learn together, she whispered to the sky, to the river, to the waiting world. Somewhere deep inside the earth, old aquifers stirred. Somewhere above the mountains, new storms began to dream. The rain was not yet fully returned, but its memory was awake. And memory is where all weather begins. The day the clouds woke without memory. For the first time in many months, the sky above the valley of White River carried weight. Not rain, not yet, but intention. Clouds thickened through the morning, trembling with forgotten purpose. Voices whispered, we want to fall. We want to stay. We are afraid. Lyra listened. The sky wants to rain, but it has forgotten how to choose. The river calls for a debt to be paid. At the riverbank, water warned her. Awakening memory also awakens sorrow. Rain is not gentle by nature. Gentle rain is a choice. A storm needs a name to fall. The old storm of the valley died nameless. Lyra must find or give its name. The ascent into a breathing sky. Lyra climbed to the ridge called the breath of the sky. The storm remnant spoke. We were storm. We have no name. The memory shattered by sunlight. The storm showed Lyra its broken past. Once a nurturing storm, Rail, dissolved when drought erased memory. It became only sky, giving the storm a name. Lyra named it Rail, the rain that remembers. The storm accepted. We were Rail. We are Rail. The storm's first question. Rail asked what she would give. Lyra offered herself as mediator between sky and earth. The beginning of the first returning rain. Rail fell gently, the first true rainfall since forgetting began. The shadow at the edge of the rain. A jagged darkness appeared at the horizon. Rail warned, "The one who taught water to fear has awakened." The shadow before rain. The night the rain lost its courage. Rail had barely begun to fall when the sky changed again. The horizon darkened with absence. Not shadow, but the void of falling itself. Rain hesitated. Drops trembled upward. Rail warned Lyra that the ancient fear of water had awakened. The shape behind the dropless sky. A vertical wound of darkness opened. From it emerged the presence called the shadow before rain, the first fear water ever knew. Villagers hid. Lyra stood alone. The shadow moved toward her, unmaking sound, rain, and memory. The voice that never spoke. The shadow pressed into Lyra's thoughts. Do not fall. Her memory of the first fall flickered. She realized the shadow thrived on forgetting. Water feared the world only when memory died. She stepped forward, her memory shining. The sky that tore itself open. Rail attacked but was unmade by the shadow's void. Rain evaporated. Thunder was swallowed. Lyra unleashed the memory inside her. Every fall, every tear, every storm, every healing drop. The shadow shuddered in pain. When a human became rain, Lyra called Rail to fall with her. The storm wrapped her in living rain, lifting her from the ground. Human memory fused with storm memory. She plunged into the void itself, carrying the truth of falling. The memory that breaks fear. Inside the darkness she showed the shadow everything water remembered. Life, loss, rivers, storms, healing, tears, oceans, courage. She pressed the memory of falling into the shadow's core. It shattered. The sky that finally wept. Lyra fell back into Rail's embrace. With fear gone, the sky opened fully. Rain poured joyful whole. The valley rejoiced. Rail thanked her and promised generations of rain, until another dreamer was needed. The end. Thank you for listening to Sleep with Myth. May your dreams fall gently, like rain returning to a thirsty world.